Hey everybody. After a brief, let's call it a break, on account of Texas weather going absolutely out of control, I am finally back, so let's get today's live stream started. Okay, good to be back. Computer is struggling a little bit with the resource usage here, so let me just try to close down a few things that would be causing this. Alright, who's eating resources right now? Let's close music. Might even have to close Slack. Okay, now we seem to be a little bit better. Okay. Glad to be back in action. So, for posterity, most people that are on the stream probably know, but if you're watching the playback, you may not be aware of what happened. I was, trying to stick to a pretty consistent, anytime I did work on Citizen, I would stream it schedule here. And that got pretty well thrown off when Texas got a atypically cold snap starting Monday, where we got, somewhere between 6 to 8 inches of snow, like throughout most of Texas. I never thought I'd see that in Austin, so I guess global warming is very much here, which is cool. And because Texas was not prepared for it, most of our energy grid went down. And so I needed to postpone the streams while that kind of was going on to make sure I wasn't contributing to the problem, because it's a little energy intensive to run the stream, a lot of bandwidth, things like that. We're not totally out of this yet. Thankfully today it is beginning to warm up, but we had people without power in the middle of an unusually cold spell for days on end. Looks like power is starting to come back, but there's been a kind of cascade of infrastructure failures that followed that. For instance, I currently have to, there's a boil notice in Austin because our water treatment plant got under pressured, so there's bacteria potentially making its way back into the pipes, so that's not great. Which is one of the reasons I haven't showered. The other reason being there's a natural gas shortage, so you want to make sure that you're not using gas any more than you need to. So that's fun. As the system comes back online, we're also going to have a lagging problem of a food scarcity, because people weren't able to get groceries for a while. HEB has been completely overloaded. I am Fortunately, when the pandemic started, I stocked up on a bunch of canned food, so I'll be okay. But I don't have a car, and the grocery delivery is just completely booked for the next, for the entirety of what it allows you to try to book. So I'm just kind of like, okay, well, it's going to be some canned soup for a while. So that's quite a trip. But doing okay. I was one of the lucky ones, actually, because I never lost power, I never lost heat, never lost water, didn't have any pipe bursts or anything like that. And I think the reason I lucked out is because I'm right in central Austin, where I'm next to a bunch of hospitals. There's actually a street called Medical, a mile away. There's so much hospital stuff around here, so I think that's why I kept power the whole time, but most of my family didn't. So, quite an ordeal. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get back to something that's a little more fun. We've all heard plenty about the about our cold spell. So I'm going to start by going over what I did while I was not streaming, and then we'll kind of dig back into getting some work done. So when we last left off was last Saturday when we had our testnet Saturday, which thank you everybody for participating. That was fun and it worked out real well. We managed to surface a couple of issues. Nothing, terribly difficult. Nothing that is like, oh boy, there's a problem with our design. But probably the biggest one we ran into was some sort of edge case error conditions or kind of failure conditions that can crop up whenever the Hypercore data mesh starts to fail synchronization between servers, which it turns out will block reads. So we need to get some insight into exactly what those synchronization errors were and how to recover from them and how to make the software a little more resilient to those kinds of problems. And so I've got my to-do list here, and these items right here are what I did while the stream was down. A little bit inscrutable, but the high level is I implemented a set of tooling management, or server management tooling rather, that will help, I think, quite a bit in the administration of servers. So this is our spiffy new TUI. It actually wraps around using PM2, so it handles the server process management for you. If you look across the top, we got 3 items currently: home, hyperspace, and issues. May need to rename issues because people think like GitHub issues, but what that actually means is like something has gone kind of wrong in the server. And so anytime there's something that you might think, okay, a flow failed, but it's not something that should cause the server to bomb out, I'll just log it to the console, and then it'll get picked up in the logs. Yeah, it's using Blessed. So like rather than just dumping it to the logs, I created a kind of an issue tracker within the running process. It just runs in memory. Actually, the easiest way to demonstrate this would just be to pop onto the currently running instance here. So why don't I do that? So gcloud is not in that history. Is it in this one? There it is. So this is the test1.citizen.network running. So let's pop over to the issues thing here. So this is pretty neat, I think. It's kind of a more advanced version of logging something, gives you a pretty clear idea of why the error occurred, what the error is. And then it includes, you can see in the bottom row, a list of actions you could take. Dismiss being just drop this one issue, but if it happens again, go ahead and relog it. Dismiss and ignore, which is like a permanent dismiss, and then attempt recovery. Currently, this is all just in memory, so if you restart the server, any dismiss and ignores will get kind of brought back. But the recovery bit is one of the particularly fun pieces because basically every kind of issue includes a recovery function, which it can attempt to basically try whatever usually what it'll be doing is trying the action again. And so the purpose of this is to help with administrators that are dealing with configuration issues or what have you, help me whenever I'm debugging what's going wrong in the first place, surface it up as an issue, poke around at trying to fix it, hit the recover button, and if it fixes it, boom, it'll leave the issues. So give it an example go here. Now, none of these are going to recover successfully because these are failing because these servers are gone. But, I'll go attempt to recover, and it should. Okay, so it seems to think it worked. I'm not entirely Actually, that's interesting. I wonder if it actually did work. Maybe that server came back online. Let's see. Okay, so there's one that actually failed. So, how about that? We were able to recover from those. Interesting situation. Suggests to me that we actually ought to be periodically reattempting to load external databases that fail. And, the interesting thing about that is, okay, so one of them didn't exactly work. It just took too long for the issue resolver to realize it didn't work. So yeah, and I might actually even I could even actually build some business logic into that, because it's to the extent that, like I was just saying, probably it ought to automatically try to recover from a failed external database load just every once in a while. So perhaps I'll extend the issues thing so that they can have an automatic recovery attempts if they think it's necessary. And the way that got built out is inside of the Citizen code base, I have this kind of base issue class here. And then any actual issue that gets surfaced extends that base class to sort of include these different behaviors. So here's the recovery code for what I was just trying, which just tries to load the external database again, right? The database indexing one is a little more interesting. It's capturing exactly what the error was, what database was trying to be changed, what the change was, what the indexing process was, and so on. And yeah, interesting possibilities here, and may need to extend it to include more than just a generic recover. It may need to have multiple options afterwards. But this just kind of occurred to me at one point that not only is it useful to have actual issues get surfaced, not just dumped into the log, but building out custom user interfaces for handling every possible issue would actually be more work than just doing this. So this is actually a pretty efficient way to deal with kind of configuration problems and flows for server administrators. Over here in the home screen, in addition to being able to start and stop the server, you also have a configuration tool. Pretty straightforward. But as a result of this, you now no longer start Citizen by passing in command line options. You can as a kind of override, but there's now a config.json that's being stored in .citizen that stores all these parameters. And then we have the Hyperspace Viewer, and it might actually be better to rename this to the Database Viewer. It gives an overview of all the different databases that are currently loaded up, what type of database they are, how many peers they have and things like that. I'll probably need to build this out more as we go. But one of the sort of useful, see the Hamnox .space server did actually recover, so that's nice. One of the sort of useful things about this is that it can also surface, issues with a given database. Currently, it doesn't do a whole lot, but the one that it does track is if it's a read-only database, like this one here, coming from another server. If there are no peers on it, then that's not a big deal, but it's something that's going to let you know, like, hey, just so you know, you're failing to sync from the original server this particular database. So a little bit useful there. I'm thinking this will need to get a little bit more work done on it, especially as we begin to debug what those hyper sync issues were. Hey, Septies, good to see you. I didn't remember to turn down the latency, so there's going to be a little bit of delay. But anyway, it would be good to have things like actually seeing what the peer IP addresses are, and potentially also having a way to open up a log of what's been occurring with the synchronization attempts to hopefully get some insight into why sync might be failing on some of them. So we will dig into that whenever it's time to try to debug what was going on with Hyperspace when we were doing the testnet. So that is a lot of what I did. That was Monday no, that was Tuesday and Wednesday I did that. Yeah, but I'm also not sending something to Mars, so I was thinking as that was all coming out as like, wanting to brag about some personal accomplishment, like, hey, I check out this cool new UI I made, and then NASA's coming out like, hey, we landed some shit on Mars. I'm like, fuck. Okay, NASA, why you always gotta one up me like that? You win. Yeah, so Septi's worked on Beaker with me briefly, and they, I want to say that was like a year or two ago. So we're actually not using Hyperdrive. We're using a new data structure in the Hypercore network called Hyper-B, which is kind of like LevelDB. It's a key value database. Here's what it looks like. One of the other things that I've been working on is basically UI stuff. You may notice this looks different than when we last left off. It's because I've been making some changes to the UI, and one of the things, in addition to its general stuff, is I've been working on mobile styles. At least just kind of an initial pass at them. I'm going to have to go back and spend some pretty significant work getting mobile to do everything it should, but it's off to a good start here. And yeah, mobile is, a total pain in the ass, to be sure. One of the things that became pretty clear was that the information density had to go down, which means I don't think I can fit the user IDs into the posts headers. They're long. And it was causing overflows in the mobile sizing. So we're going to have to find another way to deal with that. Kind of knowing for sure who you're looking at. And I know it makes it easier for people to, mimic other people to make fake accounts if you can't see their user ID. So we'll have to put some thought into how to deal with that. But, that's a problem anyway. Like if somebody was actually motivated, they could make a Paul at test.citizen.network copy over all my stuff, and it'd be just as difficult to tell. So we're going to have to spend some time thinking about how to deal with fake accounts. Or at least, fraudulent accounts. So that is what I got done over the past, 3 days or so. Took Monday off to get chores done and things and try not to freeze. So here is where we're at with the difference between now and having a beta ready to launch. We got all these issues, which we picked up during testnet Saturday. Good times. We've got some community management stuff, some basic user tools, account management, and then various UI stuff. And then, of course, you got documentation and what have you, but I won't let the documentation hold off the actual beta launch. That should happen first. So let's kind of pick through these. The issues, we'll just get to them when we get to them. I'm not going to start with the issues today. I'm not in the mood to be futzing with these bugs right now. I want to get features integrated into this thing. So we got community management. This is an interesting one. So with communities right now, anybody can create a community. Anybody can join a community. So far, so good. I need to fix some styles there. But communities need to have a permission system. And you need that because, things like who can change the name of the community and who has moderation rights and what moderation rights exist and so on and so forth. Septies, you plenty of backlog for you to catch up on. We know for sure the following things, that we need to add the concept of roles into the communities and a UI for managing those roles. We need to have some kind of permission system built around the roles. We need a default admin role. And then we need the ability for some, to create kind of permissions and controls for banning users from a community, for removing posts from a community, and maybe stuff like modifying the sidebar of a community to give like more information, kind of like you do in at least you once upon a time could do in Reddit and subreddits. Communities are going to be a pretty big part of how Citizen plays out. Self-posts are something you can do, but they're obviously a very constrained thing. Only people that you follow can interact with your self-posts and what have you, so most of the time you're going to be posting to communities, at least ideally. Not there. So this is the area where, like, I hope to have a lot of kind of customization about mechanics so that communities can build out, things that are interesting, things like, having control over algorithms for like what's trending and what have you would be a very interesting thing for communities to have. It's also the area that I think has the most potential to be sort of, one of the things you got to think about when working on any kind of project like this, decentralized or not, is just how the average kind of person is going to respond to this, what they're going to think of it. What is this doing in the market of social networks for people? And I think that the community thing is an interesting thing to focus in on because communities right now tend to have well-defined places for chat, like using Discord right now is kind of the popular thing to use. You have a well-defined place for managing the code or, tracking issues, which would be GitHub. But in terms of like sort of forums for sharing news or for just chatting about the thing, there's no real super winner on that. And I can kind of attest to that as somebody that's created plenty of projects and, looked into it and thought about how to do it. You can set up something like a discourse, which is like a kind of a, the modern bulletin board software. You could set up a subreddit. Those are okay. They're okay. Subreddits are probably the most effective of all those choices, but they're still only one type of, forum. Setting up discourses, I'm not a big fan of discourse. GitHub is kind of dipping their toes into it with the discussions, but that's also just a little bit and there's definitely no Twitter style of kind of communities that you can create for projects. And so I think that's a really interesting thing for us to zone in on is being a useful community building tool set for people. And, obviously that has utility beyond just, building things for your project or your movement or what have you. It's also just useful for bringing together people around an interest and what have you. It's kind of similar to what Facebook Groups is doing. Obviously there's a lot of reasons why Facebook Groups are in need of getting displaced. Yeah, that is the... Thank you for doing your best to get around the... Yeah, that's our Discord. I know, I'm sorry about that. There's a setting that I've turned off. You should be able to share links, but YouTube doesn't respect it. So I don't know what to do. That is just the number one grievance we have with YouTube for streaming. Anyway, so yeah, I think community is an interesting thing to focus in on. That's kind of the area that I'm thinking about, how could we tool that up to be a good MVP, which is what we're looking for a beta, of course. So that's all on our to-do list. Not a bad thing to jump into today. We've also got, a couple of basic things like editing your own posts, deleting your own posts, and blocking or muting users. Not sure which one is the right one. Blocking in Twitter has some effects that I don't really think we can do here. It stops them from seeing your tweets, makes it so they can't follow you. We could try to do that, but there's no really rigorous way we could enforce such a thing because of the decentralization. We could do a kind of version of it where, like, any software that respects the block, goes forward with that behavior, but of course it's very relatively simple to circumvent. So it's kind of like, okay, blocking seems wrong as a solution here. So I'm thinking muting will be the right thing, which makes it a private action. And is probably better. We'll come up with some other way to deal with the equivalent of blocking. I mean, in communities, we have banning, which is also effective. You know, the other thing is, like, blocking makes a little more sense in the context of, like, Twitter, because anybody can @ you at any time. They don't need to, like, if you don't follow, in the citizen world, if you don't follow somebody and they're not in a community with you, they can't reach you. So muting seems like the better choice here, which is just kind of saying I don't really want to see this person's posts anywhere. We got the sign up flow, the forgotten password flow, possibly email confirmation, and user rehoming. I would love to just launch the beta without rehoming to save ourselves some time, get things out the door faster, but I kind of think if we don't have rehoming, we're missing a pretty key part of the idea. We'll see how that goes. You know, it's a balance between, what really constitutes our MVP, and rehoming is somewhat conceptual, but also it's important. It's a really key thing. The other thing to consider is, like, rehoming may require some breaking changes, and I don't want people to start setting up citizen nodes and then, like, oh, rehoming is broken for a bunch of people. That's not great. All right, so that's our the sign up flow is also an interesting one. It's one of those things where, like, we have a sign up form, you know, what more do you need? But the reality is that sign up really means onboarding people. And we got to, that's something that I think is one of those areas that you can do good work in. Because not only should the sign up be interesting and fun, it should also sort of kind of clue people into, like, what we're trying to accomplish here, what's interesting about the whole thing. And so I'm thinking it'll be something along the lines of, first of all, choosing your home server and finding a good way to kind of engage people on that. It's something I've talked about this in the past. I'm thinking maybe what we'll do is set up multiple different servers. Like, I'll set up some, and then of course anybody else can as well, and give these servers a kind of I hate to use the word branding, but that's the right word for it. Give a kind of a unique style to each one, so that whenever you're choosing one of these things, it's kind of like choosing between the Alliance or the Horde when you first join World of Warcraft. You're getting some kind of sense of, like, what vibe you're kind of picking up on and kind of attaching to yourself. Oh yeah, you want to go in there, kitty cat. Sorry, everybody, 1 second here. One of Kit's favorite spots is inside of the felt guitar case, and it was shut, and so she wasn't able to go and cozy up. She always likes to be kind of near me, like sleeping somewhere, but it has to be kind of the perfect feng shui. Can't just be, like, on my lap or right here. It has to be kind of like over there or kind of like over there. She's very particular. Anyway, so you choosing the Alliance or the Horde, choosing your home server, and then from there we got to get people kind of into some initial communities, which are going to define a lot of your early experience, and choosing the process for deciding what gets recommended is another one of those things that I would really like to farm out to. Or let's say empower users. Am I avoiding doing work and making decisions, or am I giving the users the power? Por qué no los dos? I would like for basically anything algorithmic, anything recommendation based, to be kind of minimally determined by the stuff that I control. So it's kind of, I've talked about this in the past. You have these kind of locuses of control. You have the application, which is how you get entered into things, and that's going to end up setting, like, which servers are recommended for you to join when you're signing up. Then once you're onto the servers are somehow going to be giving initial recommendations for, like, communities to join. And then from there, it would be good to have everything kind of driven by kind of respectable communities. You don't want it to just be algorithms. It's not like none of the design work we're going to do here on recommendations or anything like that is going to be tracking, which of the, certainly not in the Citizen protocol or any of the software I'm going to write. It's not going to be the kind of thing like, who watched this video most? Okay. If similar people that watch this also watch this a lot, it will just automatically recommend it. It's never going to be like that. It's always going to be something along the lines of if there is an algorithm, it's designed by a community, and ideally that will be a programmable layer at some point. But more generally, I think communities should be sort of designed around the idea that a big purpose of being a community is to create recommendations for people and to kind of push people to useful information or fun information or what have you. The high-level concept is society, not social, right? It's not you just like hanging out and there's a system above you which is calling the shots, kind of extracted from your behavior. It's people have like a responsibility for how the system works, and there's structure to how the system works. And that's what a lot of what communities are designed to deal with. So I'm kind of ranting here, but hopefully this is somewhat makes sense. All right, so that's the sign-up flow. And then we got various, which is got to finish the mobile styles, which is a bigger task than you would think. Fucking mobile. You got dark mode. Not terrible. It's like a day. Not even. A couple hours. Need the feed to automatically load new content when it comes up. You don't want to just be sitting there and have stale content if new things are happening. Need a little UI showing who upvoted and downvoted your post. That seems like something that'd be good to have. Pagination in the feeds needs to get done. That's a thing. Like I was talking about, solution for discovery, and then we launched the beta. So, stuff to do. Not zero. Certainly more than I would prefer. And anytime you're trying to get something out the door, you really want to try to aggressively eject priorities. Like, how badly do I need blank, 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 and blank? This workload right here looks like at least a month of work to me at a glance. So it's like, okay, what can we possibly eject? Editing posts, I can eject that one. We're talking just for the beta, not permanently, but like what can we get rid of for now? So that one could go. What else? Possibly rehoming, right? Would be really good to have that, but it's if it's going to slow down getting the beta going, maybe it needs to wait. That one can wait. What else? Communities are MVP. You know what I mean? Same with like the discovery thing. Now we can come up with some kind of minimal version of how to deal with discovery, and this community management stuff is pretty minimal as well, but it's got to be there. I mean, at the moment, because it's not there, you can't change like the description or the name of a community right now. So obviously something has to be done there. So yeah, I don't know. If we're really aggressive, maybe we can get it down to 2 weeks. That would be pretty nice. We'll see. We will see. Betas aren't supposed to be perfect, but also I'm tired of like MVP is one of those things that I think tricks you into launching crap. I know the philosophy, but like I don't know. We're kind of past the point. There's that whole philosophy of like the lean startup premise where it's like you should be embarrassed by. Hi Alice, welcome to the stream. The whole philosophy that you should be embarrassed by your initial product launch, and the idea is if you've got anything good, the actual customers for your new startup will see it and they'll push through the problems to be using this thing. And I think maybe for some things that could be true. If you had a product, for instance, which magically gave the user $5 every time they logged in. That could be the crappiest UI in the world, but if $5 show up in my bank account every time I log into that thing like once a day, yeah, you could be embarrassed by what it looks like. It could just be a no-style CSS page with a button on it that you press every day. Doesn't matter. But for a lot of like social products, for a lot of almost everything that decentralization tries to touch, which tends to be along, other than, the cryptocurrency stuff sometimes gets into that vein of, okay, money's coming into my pocket. I don't care how crappy this is. Yeah, kind of. It's always a spectrum here. But like for everything else, an undercooked product tends to be pretty bad, I think. You end up, because one of the questions everybody's always asking when they sit down to a new decentralization project is like, okay, is it feasible? Right? Did they cook up some kind of architecture which is actually able to do what it's supposed to do? Is it going to have the kind of features you expect out of something like this? Or is it another half-broken thing that's not worth my time? And I've launched enough of those. I've launched plenty of half-broken, be embarrassed by your first version products to know that like, and I've tried other people's in the community too, where you walk away going, no, they don't got it. That's no good. We can't have that. So as aggressive as we want to be about a release timeline, we also kind of need to be aware of the fact that like if the thing doesn't feel good right from the get-go, that's not what you want. There's also just so much competition in the space for what we're doing here. So we should be trying to hit something really, I think, that gets a base level of like not only kind of impressing people in terms of like, oh yeah, it works, but also maybe even gets them excited for what it is beyond just the fact that it's decentralized. I think that's kind of important. What does the library do? I remember trying it out or kind of seeing it like 2-3 years ago. Let's see how much of community management we can get done today. Gotta give Micronerd a second to respond while I futz with this. Library gives you coins for watching a video every day and some stuff, right? Certainly one way to do it. I have personal problems with the idea of anybody paying me to consume something. Valued customer, watch this premium content and receive 10 crazy bucks. It's one of the reasons why I understand why some people imagine like, hey, advertisement is what they're really trying to do is, they're paying for eyeballs. Why not pay the eyeballs directly? Why not pay people to watch the ad? And I'm always like, I hate the vision of what that means for the future because like you literally, yeah, get coins for logging in. That bothers me less, getting random coins for logging in. And I'm not harshing on anything. I'm just kind of talking here. But like, if you create a system, for instance, where it's like, okay, if you watch for every N minutes of ads, you get X number of dollars. You're incentivizing people to sit around all day as their job to watch ads, which is like terrifying to me. I don't know what Kit wants, but I better find out because I've learned she will meow indefinitely. What's up, Kit? Oh, you don't actually want anything. You're just being a little fuss. Yeah, I know. Yeah. She's just bored. She's currently in the bathroom standing on the sink, looking around and meowing. I think she thinks she wants to climb up somewhere. We did this, went on Oral and Laura's little, what do they call it? The small web podcast, I think? Something like that. It's not actually a podcast, it's a video thing. for the first like 5 minutes, she's just meowing, meowing, meowing. And it was, it's because it's frozen outside. I can't let her out. It's kind of embarrassing. It's a monster. All right, so we're talking about adding community roles. Micronerd says they are essentially throwing money at people, even though it's not much, but you can use it to donate to other video creators in Israel crypto, not virtual coins. Yeah, I mean, that's the... it makes sense for library, especially whenever you're trying to kickstart an economy where you're paying out to... paying out to creators in a currency, especially a currency that most people don't hold. Yet, having some way to flow that currency into the users so that they can then pay out to the creators makes sense, especially because it's such a small amount. It's only going to make, have any meaning in the aggregate, which would be, people creating things and receiving the money so that they can then actually want to cash it out. So that makes sense. And I'm also not against that. I mean, like, PayPal paid off people to join it originally. It was, you could get, what was it, like $5 or $10 for every recommendation, like if you got somebody to join by recommending them or something like that. So, like, it's a common strategy, and I don't really have a problem with it. Handshake did the same thing. They, with their new DNS system, they just dumped VC money into their coin and then just started handing it out to people. But we don't have any mechanism like that, so we're not going to be able to pay people to use our thing. What can you do? All right. So we are introducing roles into community management. At the outset, the minimum that we need is to set up the concept of a admin. And so the basic schema change we need is the community member needs to have a roles field. Is array not a... Where have I used arrays before? I'm trying to remember that. Okay, right here. Okay, pretty straightforward. So this is in the record which the community maintains. Of course, with the communities, there's always two records. There's the member record, which the community maintains, and the membership record, which the user maintains, pointing to the communities that they're a member of. And we have to... So we're going to bake in the string admin as a kind of core role. Eventually, it would make sense to have user-definable roles and a kind of permission assignment system on the basis of that, but we are aiming for beta territory. And the question is, do we want to introduce the ability for kind of robust permission management to be introduced? Kind of seems like that might be MVP here. Because can you imagine a project or a community you're trying to set up, you're trying to get this community going, you want to be able to farm out moderation, things like that, but you don't want to make them admins. Seems like having the ability to create like a moderator role would be good. And that moderator role wouldn't have the ability to, for instance, change the title of the thing or create new roles and etc. So this kind of stuff can get pretty extensive pretty fast. Let's just toy with it a little bit here. Let's say we create a schema for declaring or defining roles. The admin one will never require that record. It will always exist. It always has full permissions to do anything inside of a community. Going to need a string, which is the role ID. Live peer pays people for running transcoding servers / miners and charges for streaming half a penny per minute of video ingested. Makes sense. Distributed cloud systems makes a lot of sense. So you're going to need a role ID. Going to track when it was created. Because why not? Just useful information. And then I guess you need a permission structure. Kitty cat. What do you want, kitty cat? Help me. What do you want, Biddy? Yeah. Okay. You're a little gremlin. Do you need playtime? I haven't played with her yet. That might be what she's whining about. Is this what you want? Yeah, that's what she wants. Okay, well, I'm going to play with her a little bit, get myself some more coffee, and stew on what all we need here. I mean, for a permission, generally speaking, a permission ID should be enough at first for each permission, which will probably need to be a URL similar to like schemas. And then, you know, eventually there may be parameters to it, which is why making the permissions an object. But initially I'm thinking no need for that. Or we'll introduce it as it becomes obvious that we need them. So not a bad start. So I'm going to kick off my kit playtime bump. And hopefully this won't take too long, maybe 5-10 minutes. Okay, she has run away into her hidey hole, so I think she's satisfied. So let's get back to work. Okay. Yeah, I'm ready to call that satisfactory. Let's not spend too much time kind of mulling over how to do this. It won't be perfect at first. That's okay. All right. So let's document. Yeah, we got that documented. So that'll define roles. So we're here in the the profile system. There's profiles and there's communities. Mad Cat. So when we create a community, we need to go ahead and generate the initial records for all this. There's the community user being created. Here's the member value that we need to modify. The first member, of course, is an admin. I'm not entirely sure how we're going to deal with, like, admin that creates a group, like, leaving it. Creates a community, rather. Interesting situation. Might want to make it so that if you're an admin, you're not actually allowed to leave. Like, you have to sort of like, you know, give up your admin status first. And then maybe we make it so that you're not allowed to give up your admin status unless... Something that's just occurring to me here is that we have this kind of protocol for remote joining and remote leaving communities. Well, we need a similar protocol for basically every situation in which you're needing to modify the community records remotely. So we need to generalize this whole system. Fun. So we're going to have to give that some thought. Okay. That's what I'm talking about. That's why it's hard to ship this thing quickly. I'm going to have to zoom out the code. It's just a little hard to read with it that zoomed in. Well, let's stick to the logic we're doing here. So we set the admin role there. Now what kind of methods are we going to need? Let's do update member. We're going to need that for modifying people's roles and what have you. We're going to need create role. Let's actually change that to edit. Create role, edit role, and delete role. And let's spec out exactly what these will do. Pretty simple there. Also pretty simple. That one, we got to remove the role from anybody that currently holds it, and then delete the role record. All right. So that's role management. What else are we going to need? We're going to need... I think with edit member, we probably also need... remove member, and that will eventually include a field for banning them permanently. Which seems like actually it should just be a field on the member record. No, this probably going to be a separate record. Forgot to restart my computer before starting the stream. It's kind of chugging. So when somebody's banned, we want to track who's banned, who created the ban, and we'll make the reason optional. All right, now we need post removal. So that's everything there. I think we also need a communities.edit, because the profiles API sort of assumes that you're modifying your own profile. Probably would be difficult to modify that, so I'm just gonna hey Lorenzo. So those are all of our methods. Let's spec out what these profile or these permissions will be for each of these. So we've spec'd out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 permissions. We probably need a list roles. Which anybody can do as well as a get roles. Get role rather. getting some light flicker. I'm wondering if about to have a rolling blackout. One second. Okay. I can't do this long. I've paired my phone to to do some Wi-Fi, but it's low on power, so I guess my time is finally up. Made it this whole time without getting a power outage in my apartment, and there it goes. So I guess by streaming I pushed my luck too far. Well, oh well. Hopefully we'll be able to resume next week. I'm going to keep working on what I was working on for as long as my laptop survives, but none of my batteries are in a particularly good state, so it'll be a short day today. TGIF. Anyway, not a big deal. I'm sufficiently resourced to deal with this, and I'm thinking what happened is that initially there were supposed to be rolling blackouts in Austin, and part of the problem was that, as I understand it, the capacity for the power grid actually got so low that they couldn't actually do the rolling power outages. So they did the initial start of it and then had to just leave it without actually rolling through the different kind of sectors of the grid. So I'm guessing they got enough capacity to actually do rolling power outages for real. So my time has come. Oh well. Yeah, I'll catch y'all in the next one. Yeah, I'll probably unplug everything to make sure that if any kind of vacillating power comes into play, it doesn't blow anything up. Spectrum, my internet provider, just texted me to say, hey, there's a service outage, no shit. Yeah, thanks everybody. Funny. I better go before I drain all my batteries, so have a good rest of your day. I'll catch y'all later.